Good evening, everybody on 3020. Good to speak to you again. Slim pickings this week in the way of replies to any of the exercises that I set. One top class set of points really, but looking thin elsewhere. Now I know Tynesides that you like to do a load all at once and send all your stuff in. Fair play. But Genzi, you've got a bit late. Got to say it. I've sent you an email, but I'm sure there's something bubbling away at the bottom of this. Probably a week of nights. That's my suspicion. Anyway, let's get down to the stuff that we've had this week. Incidentally, before I start that, I've put an extra lesson in, and it's about reading 12 lead ECGs. I've replaced the thing that I had. The thing that I had was indistinct and it wasn't very professional. So I've replaced it with a discussion that I had with two practitioners. One's a cardiac specialist nurse and one's an A&E nurse with an interest in cardiac stuff. Notice that red spot there. It looks like an extra eye, doesn't it? Good grief. Anyway, so that's there for you to take a look at. And by the way, while I'm on the subject, start using the Facebook page. Put pictures of yourself. Put pictures of your mates. You know, one of the things that we fail with these sort of online modules is the social element. And I'm trying to sort of build that up. So, you know, let's have pen pals, coronary care pen pals all over the country. You know, let's face it. Half your friends on Facebook aren't really friends anyway, so you may as well talk to someone who works in the same sort of job. At least you'll have something in common. Anywho, thank you, CJ, for all of the interesting points that you made this week. Very interesting to read some of this stuff. No, she says, they don't use diamorphine in her hospital. I wonder why not. My understanding is that that there is no recognised use for diamorphine in the United States, in a lot of states in the United States. All the pain relief that you can get from diamorphine, you'll get from ordinary morphine. It's the euphoric element that they object to in these states which won't recognise its use, even in palliative care. The euphoric nature of diamorph. I don't know what one of our pharmacists would say though, when asked, you know, why not diamorphine? What's the case against it? I mean, I know there was a shortage for a while, but blinking heck, you'd think we'd having all them troops in Afghanistan would be all right for diamorph, wouldn't you? They use in CJ's unit. They used TNK, my guess, and they don't use streptokinase anymore. Not surprisingly, streptokinase was a bit of a nasty drug in some respects. I remember listening to one fella. I was trying to talk to a student, and I was listening to the chap who'd had some streptokinase in the next bed space. And he was shaking so badly on the bed because of rigors, because of an anaphylactic reaction. And I remember I was there in the accident to the emergency department when my own dad was getting streptokinase in 1992, and I'm trying to beef it up to him, you know, to tell him that this is this wonderful new drug that's revolutionised the treatment of patients with heart attack. And then he said to me, is it normal for all your eyesight to go blurred with this drug? And I just reached over and turned the damn stuff off, because your vision going blurred, that can't be normal. Anyway, good to see CJ in your unit there. They are now entirely committed to the use of PCI. When I used to run an old-fashioned face-to-face coronary care course, one of the things that I like to run each year was to have a debate. I would get someone over from the tertiary centre, and I would get them to argue in favour of PCI, and then I'd get a thrombolysis nurse to come and speak up thrombolytic treatment. It ran for a while, yeah. I mean, originally it started off as a debate, but year in, year out, the thrombolysis nurses would just come over and would say, look, I'm only saying this, but I don't really believe it, you know. And every year, the every year the case for PCI got stronger and stronger and stronger. And then, you know, the NSF came out, and the best thing that the NSF could say was, okay, we recognise that it's the best treatment, it's just that in places it's not going to be available, and we look forward to the day when it will be available for everyone. And now it is. And now it is. And she points out, CJ, that all the cardiac practitioner nurses, now we've said before on this module, haven't we, all the cardiac practitioner nurses down in the A&E department are now thrown in back into the pool in coronary care, and the patients that they're getting in coronary care aren't the patients that they used to get. The logic for coronary care is starting to, you know, what with the massively increasing patients with heart failure, for instance, you know, it's going to get harder and harder for the authorities to justify, you know, running specialist units like that. It's hard to deny that, as much as I'd like to, frankly speaking. TIMI flow, absolutely, you got that bang on. TIMI flow, it's a measure of, it's a way of imagining, it's a scaling exercise for blood flow. I used to have a wonderful animation for that, you know, but I cannot get it loaded into an online format that I can use on this course. It's a little animation, really summed it up very nicely. I remember being in France in the cardiac unit in France on a visit one time, and I was there, I've fallen asleep at the back while this cardiologist was talking to all these medical students, and then he said, Monsieur Langlais, Mr. English, are you familiar with the concept of TIMI flow? Imagine being put on the spot like that in front of a big load of French people. Now, one other thing that CJ says is that she says, oh, Mr. Jones, from your questions last week, are you inferring that we would be better off not giving oxygen to patients who've got oxygen saturations at their fingertip which are 98 or 100%? I'm not that stupid. I say something like that, there's a QA cardiologist outside my office saying, what are you telling the students? I'm not saying that. Of course not. That would be going against what all of the books say and what everyone I know in practice would say off the top of their head. This is common sense. What I'm asking is that if their cells are 100% saturated, what is the physiological rationale for giving oxygen? I'm just asking. If they were in a hyperbaric chamber, you could imagine that there is an extra logic whereby you are forcing oxygen to saturate into the plasma. But so far as I understand it, if blood is carrying 100% oxygen and all the red cells are full and there's enough red cells in circulation, giving a person extra oxygen will go straight into their lungs and straight back out unchanged. There is no carrying mechanism for it. There's a blockage in the coronary artery, but how is oxygen gonna, is it a vasodilator? Is it gonna cause vasodilatation? Don't know. I'm just asking. And so is Chris Nicholson in the heart failure module, which I also run online, and one I hope to see you all back on after this course is finished. So, start writing everybody else who hasn't contributed this week. What do you think this is? A blinking charity? Thank you for CJ, who made some wonderful contributions this week. By the way, CJ, I am still waiting for your permission to put the stuff that you sent to me about the Cheshire and Merseyside network up in the discussion board. In fact, why don't you put it up? You put it up and see how we get on. Speak to you next week, everybody. Start thinking about your essays. Start sending me ideas for your essays, because it's essay time, isn't it? So, speak to you soon, everyone. Ta-ta.